You can change your consciousness by going down inside of yourself.
Hello and welcome to 22 Steps into Spirituality based on ancient Freemason wisdom with our wonderful speaker, Dr. Chris Earnshaw. And thank you very much and welcome back, Chris.
Thank you.
This is our
11th
video. So there we go. We have a running joke now coming up. So if this is your first time being with us, we've already done 10 videos. We're planning, I think, 22 altogether. It's, in my personal experience, a one-of-a-kind lecture, singular to none, where process and the part of inner enlightenment and spirituality is explained in hands-on practical advice by Chris based on his upcoming book. So this is all like a sneak preview. We know more than the others when you follow us here in this series, and you're absolutely invited to make this, to practice these exercises. And I invite you to leave some comments, some experiences if you have done so, how it went and how it felt, so we all can build a little community. And with this, I'll pass the floor to Chris. Thank you.
Thank you. So today I want to look at lesson 11, which is now in the next section about rising through the grades. In this lesson, we'll talk about the winding staircase, which is a path of initiation. In Masonry, the winding staircase is in the second degree, and it leads to the middle chamber of King Solomon's Temple. In Taoism, they talk about a spiral journey of the Tao, so it's a sort of similarity there. The important thing, I believe, is that the spiral is not, in spiritual terms, is not a vertical ascent, but it's actually going inside yourself. In Freemasonry, it's made up of 3 sets of different number of steps, 3, 5, 7 or more. And in alchemy, this refers to the process of alchemy. And so the 3 can be seen to be the 3 primer materia. Such the 3 originally were sulfur, mercury, and salt. At times, mercury was changed for antimony, but there were often changes made, but there were initially 3. And the next steps were 5, and this is represented by the 5 colors of alchemy. Alchemy was originally a process to purify metals. So you took a base metal, which is they called iron. So the definitions were talking about medieval thinking. So base metal, the most exalted was gold, of course. Gold doesn't rust, doesn't change. It can only be found in very little numbers. I saw somewhere that all the gold ever dug up or extracted out of the earth amounts to what could be put inside a football stadium. So that's really not a lot of gold. But anyway, so the base metals, according to medieval thought, first of all, they could grow underground. And when they dug up the metals, whichever they're looking for, like copper, they could see it going in seams left and right. And they thought that these were like roots growing under the earth. And they also thought that metals wanted to change their quality and to eventually go through the process of moving through the seven alchemical metals to become gold. And the alchemists thought that their job was just to hurry the process along. So these metals, there were 3 steps, the 3 prime materials used in alchemy. Then there were the 5 colors, which were nigredo, albedo, citrinus, and rubedo. And there was a 5th sort of magical color called cauda pavonis. Cauda pavonis is Latin for peacock tail. A peacock is a beautiful array of different colors, greens and blues. And in fact, peacocks can be found in many colors, not just greens and blues, but also in whites and other colors. But anyway, so the alchemical process was to heat the metal or whatever they were using to start the process, heat it very, very high degrees. And then they would go through a 7-step process to, first of all, to break down the metal, which they called elimination. And then they would divide it or thin it out with acids and things, known as dissolution. And then they would distill it. And then there was a coagulation. So there were 7 steps. So these 3 steps, the steps leading to the middle chamber in the 2nd degree can also be seen as the process of alchemy. The 3 prime materials, the 5 colors that the metals go through in the process. When it reaches red, then it is perfected. And then you've got the 7-step process. But there's another way of thinking about it, because as early as 100 AD, Chinese alchemists already knew that gold could not be made in this process. And they focused instead on a spiritual alchemy where they'd apply it to themselves. And these were the Taoists. The Taoists would see their body changing to become more spiritual. And this is part of their process, a sort of spiritual alchemy. But it didn't have a 3-5-step, 7-step. So, yes, what are we looking at?
Do you see that there is a lot of talk that the European alchemists eventually also adopted some form of spiritual alchemy? Or do you think that this is just a bad rumor?
I don't think they understood spiritual alchemy until Freemasonry started. And that's why it's important. Alchemy had traveled through India by Arab traders and came into Arabia. And that is a big word. I'm not quite sure what part of the Arabia it meant. And the Arabics taught it probably about the 1600s. And then it started to go into Europe. And there were two types of alchemy. One was the search for search for the ability to make gold. And the other was to use the same techniques to make medicines.
Yes.
And so most of the monks and other orders of friars, like the Cluniacs, Benedictines, and people like that, they were studying alchemy, but only to make medicine. So the distillation, coagulation, and this sort of thing. And one of the outcomes of this was the alcohol called Benedictine, made by Benedictine monks, and they use these techniques to distill and make Benedictine. So they make a tonic, actually, help people get better. But because everybody wanted to find gold, alchemy just got associated with making gold. And it's only when the Chinese Mandarin, Shen Fuzhong, visited England in 1687, and he met some associates of literati. These literati joined together to start the first Premier Grand Lodge of England. And I believe they were teaching this method of immortality that they had learned from this Chinese Mandarin. It's in all my books. The thing about the 3-5-7 steps is we associate it with going up, but there is another way, actually going down. And one of the practices, or the practice I would like to introduce today, is to change your consciousness. And you can change your consciousness by going down inside of yourself. And what you do is you find a quiet place, close your eyes, and imagine you are in a large room. And in one corner, there is a staircase going down. And you approach it, you see yourself walking down, and you count steps as you go down. And you go down 1, 2, 3. There's a small platform. Then you go down again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's another platform. And this is a circular staircase, yes? A winding circular station. And finally, you get to 7 steps and you come out into a room. Now, this is a very common way of altering your consciousness when you want to do things like healing somebody, manifestation, when you're working on magic or other things. Many people use this technique. So this is what it could be in this case. Yes, 3, 5, 7 steps. If you wanted to do further exercises, we'll introduce things later. So you can just practice. When you walk down the steps and count yourself down, you could actually feel your energy changing. Your body gets a little bit heavier as you go down. It's very comforting. It's nothing to make you concerned. Yes, and it can lead to potential, a kind of personal transformation. And so it's the beginning of this magical mystery tour that we are doing. And that is the winding staircase.
Thank you very much. And again, everyone listening today, we had luck to get a little bit more knowledge than usual. So we had a lucky day today. Please, if you make these exercises, express if you feel like sharing with us how it felt and how it went. We're looking forward to hearing from you in the comments. Thank you very much. And this was our 11th session.